I think when we hear about suicide in the national media, a lot of the times the stories from our community are not being heard. They're not being seen. We're not being seen in national campaigns. We're not being seen on a social media level. And what's come across to us is that this is affecting LGBTQ people, that the fact that they're not being represented in any sort of national attention means that we're not part of the conversation. We're not being counted, and when you're not being counted, then you're lost.
Yeah, when you look at the data, there is a disproportionately high number of people from the community who are being affected by suicide and mental health. What are some of the factors that are causing that?
I mean, the barriers are there right from childbirth. We have to realise that we are LGBT people living in a heterosexual world, and the impact of society on us starts from a young age, of the images that we see, the messages that we hear, and what was expected from us. And as we grow up and become teenagers and we realise who we are as people, that negativity can have a massive impact, and I think this is where it stems from. And a lot of people are not able for that type of negativity to come into their life, and this affects their self-esteem, their self-worth, and it impacts on their mental health. They become depressed, and in some cases that leads to suicide.
Yeah, I mean, we only have to look at the recent same-sex row about whether or not same-sex couples should be spoken about in classrooms to realise that actually we're not necessarily there in terms of equality. Is that fair to say?
I think a lot has been done in the last couple of decades in regards to trying to bring in equal rights for LGBTQ people, but it takes decades for that to have an impact on society. I mean, you just have to look back at the decriminalisation of homosexuality, which happened just over 50 years ago, and yet we're still having these conversations. A lot has been done, and I very welcome what has been done in the last 10 years in regards to marriage equality and the recent act to bring in sex and relationship education by the government. But it's going to take decades for this to have impact on our society. So in the meantime, we have to make sure that LGBTQ people are supported, so we can stop people from being affected by mental health issues and stop people dying by suicide, but also lay down the foundations for future generations.
Yeah, this platform which is launched now, it is something which is quite close to your heart.
Yeah.
Certainly something that you have experience of. From what you feel comfortable talking about, just tell us what you went through.
Yeah, I mean, it was age 7 when I kind of realised that I was different from everybody else, but it wasn't until the age about 11 or 12 that I could put a word on it. And when I figured it out, what gay actually meant and that I might have been gay, my whole world changed. I started to look at how society looked at me, and I started worrying about whether my family would reject me, whether my friends would reject me, and all as a 12-year-old boy. And I started to isolate myself. I stopped hanging around with my friends. I stopped really interacting with my family. I wouldn't really talk at school because I thought maybe my voice would give me away. And I fell into depression, and that depression grew and it grew. And at age 13, I had my first suicide attempt. Now, I was lucky that I was not successful, but I thought life might get better, but it didn't. And I went on to try and take my life a further 2 times. I was 16 years old at the last attempt.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, did you feel like there was any support out there?
No, I mean, I grew up in the middle of Ireland, in a small town, without any internet. It was a different time, and I fully understand that we are in a different time right now. But it was still the same sort of impact of society that was on me. And because my situation was linked to my sexuality, I felt it very difficult to be able to talk to anybody. So I couldn't reach out for support, because if I tried to talk to somebody about the reasons why I was feeling like this, that meant I had to out myself as a 12, 13-year-old boy. Yeah. And you can't do that. And this is why we need services that are by LGBTQ people, for LGBTQ people, because we are the people who know how to impact and make a difference, and we need to be able to provide a platform where younger LGBTQ people, especially younger LGBTQ people, can go to somewhere where they know that they're not going to be judged and they can be who they want to be.
Yeah, we'll find out exactly what will be part of this new service in a moment, but what was it that saved your life, do you think? I
mean, it was nothing really external. What happened was, after my last suicide attempt, I was very alone and isolated, and I'd locked myself into my room, and I was just listening to music, and there was one line in one song that said, "I am the person I'm looking for," and it made me think about who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And I mean, as silly as this sounds, I stood up and I stood in front of the mirror and I kind of sort of said to myself, "Ian, are you gay?" And it was the first time that I said it out loud. And I was able to answer myself back, and I said, yes, I'm gay. And I kept on saying it over and over again until I made myself laugh because I realized how stupid this probably looked. But then that made me it was probably my first true smile in years. And it just kind of felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I mean, it didn't change for the better straight away. I mean, it was still a lot of tough times, but that was the turning point for me because I realized that, yes, I'm actually comfortable with this and I'm able to move forward with this. And I got a part-time job, I met new people, but it wasn't until that I went to university and I met a lot of other LGBTQ people who made me realize that it's okay to be me. And that's when I truly felt that it was over.
Yeah, well, hopefully, those that are going through some of those feelings that you went through will now have an easier access route to the information that will help them. What will they find on this platform?
Well, OutLife is a new platform. I mean, we're starting from scratch, essentially. We're not really funded to do this, so it's a slow process. But what we're trying to offer is information that is relevant to LGBTQ people, talking about issues that is relevant to them too. So basic information from mental health to depression to self-esteem, self-worth, body image, anything that kind of affects us as a community. But we also try to offer true life stories so that people can see that they're not alone, and they're not the only ones that have gone through these issues. But we're also providing a peer support forum where LGBTQ people can come together and talk about these issues and support one another, moderated by professionals to make sure that they get the right support and direction. But the long-term objective of OutLife is to start running campaigns, national campaigns, to make us visible within the community, to make us visible on a national level, and to get our message out there into national media that we exist and that our stories matter and that you can't just gloss over us.
Yeah, vitally important that you mentioned there will be some moderation there because these forums can often be hijacked by individuals and the wrong information can be put out there. To get to where you want to do then, you need funding. Are likely to get that from the government?
Well, we're very lucky now that the Equalities Office, so the Women's and Equalities Office, have funded us for a year to do these peer support forums, which allows us to train people to be moderators, to be able to help and support people who are going through situations. And we've got some support from the National Lottery to create some content over the next year. But the fundamental cost of running OutLife, the website cost, the staff cost, the general promotion cost, we just do not have that. So at the moment we're relying on community donations to keep OutLife going and to help us build up. I'm hoping that people can see the value in this and get behind OutLife and be able to support us.